President of Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Wabba, has reiterated that the development must be about human development. Speaking at the third national conference of the Senior Staff Union in Colleges of Education Nigeria, Comrade Wabba says colleges of education is a tool to address challenges of teachers in the country. He calls on the government to increase budgetary allocation to education.
Development must be about human-centered approach. Even the UN said in the SDG approach that is a human-centered approach to development. And that's why in the SDGs, SDG 8 is about the provision of decent work. That's SDG 8. How do we address the issue of development? With addressing the issue of providing decent job for our citizens and our society. So comrades, I want to once again encourage you, and I want to assure you of the support of the Congress. Every union is our priority, and every worker will continue to be our priority. Because we believe that injury to one will continue to be injury to all. And that is why in Kaduna we said it's injury to many workers. It's not even to one, thousands of workers and their family. If you have any relation in Kaduna, the information I provided, ask them, you will hear it. We are not also unaware of the deployment of propaganda against the Congress and also our leadership. We are here constituted recently a 3-man propaganda committee to be able to interface with media houses, editors, columnists to be writing to launder image and launder false information. We cannot be outraged by that. Any of such information will counter it immediately. And we know that people know that we don't speak propaganda. We speak only the truth on the basis of the clear information that we have. So, comrades, we cannot be deterred. There is no way we can have justice without people demanding for fairness, equity, and justice. Everywhere around the society is about class, the working class and the political elites. These days, people see politics as a business. You spend money to go into business, and you expect that you should be able to have maximum return. Unlike in other climes, when politics is about serving the people and making people to be happy, and also meeting the need of the people. So for me, the colleges of education is a very important tool to addressing the challenge of teacher quality in Nigeria. And therefore, the issue of funding this very important institution is very, very important and timely. It's the foundation for education. Teacher quality is the foundation. And therefore, if the foundation be faulty, there is no other building that you can do on the foundation that will stand the test of time. And therefore, I subscribe to the issue that was raised by the president of this great union to say that the budget allocated to education is far below what is expected. Because in other climes, two sectors are very important because they are sectors used actually in measuring development, the education sector and the health sector. And therefore, in many climes, their budgets are all actually dedicated to the education sector because the innovation and the research coming in from our institutions, including building capacity, must be driven by the education sector. But you see, in our own climes, the priority is not about education. And therefore, I want to canvass and reiterate that as part of the priority of NLC and the working class, we'll continue to advocate that we must budget properly for education. Our schools must be of standard. We cannot compete globally if we have colleges of education that are comparable with possibly primary schools elsewhere around the world. You go to other climes, most of us have traveled. Go to their institutions, you will see facilities. E-library must be of necessity in all our colleges of education. We must have power 24/7. We must have infrastructure. And I agree with you. The demonstration schools are integral parts of college of education. And therefore, they must be brought back. I remember that was a decision of the court. The issue went to the NIC. And the NIC made a pronouncement to say that that decision was wrong. And that government must revert and ensure that those demonstration schools are integral parts of our training institutions. So, comrades, we will continue to stand by you. We will continue to ensure that workers' rights are protected. And there is a price they set, and that price is internal vigilance. I am aware that Nigerian working class are very conscious, and we must continue to remain conscious but vigilant, because our political elites, no doubt, they are not being very responsible. In fact, none of them promise us that price of crude oil or price of pump price will be 300 or 408. The same governor that made that recommendation, his clip, in 2015, he said, liter of petrol should not sell more than 40 naira per liter. It's there, it's trading on the social media. So when people promise something, they do something different. And we must hold them accountable. So comrades, once again, I wish you a very successful delegate conference. And I wish you a very peaceful election. I'm also delighted about the choice of the team for this conference, which certainly captures my attention. Trade union and the emerging challenge in the world of work. This team is really of essence because of the fact that workers today around the world are at the receiving end. Instead of looking at us as victims, most governments and people see us as the problem. But I can say clearly that we are not the problem, we are only victims of circumstances, and we'll continue to challenge that. People don't remember when we contribute to development. When teachers teach, when workers work, they quickly forget. But suddenly they remember us when COVID-19 struck. They remember there are those that are referred to as frontline health workers. This is how our politicians behave. And I think we must remind them that development is not only about building infrastructure. In fact, development everywhere around the world, when you hear about welfare of the people, it means welfare means also the socio-economic status of the people, and therefore the security of the people. And there are two components to security: the economic security of the people and the physical security, and one leads to the other. That is the concept of development everywhere around the world. You cannot discuss the issue of physical insecurity if you don't discuss the issue of economic insecurity of the people. People that are poor, people that don't have access to education are easily manipulated. Who are those that are manipulated in the issue of insecurity today in our country? There are many of them that are not educated. We are not talking of even those that are educated. We have a bunch of our people, many of them, that have not seen the four corners of classroom, and therefore they are easily manipulated. We have also the poor and the vulnerable. Because of their economic status, they are also manipulated. And therefore, in addressing the issues of development, those issues must be taken together. And that's why I'm very happy that this issue is actually captured in the theme of this conference. Workers all around the world create the wealth of every economy. In Nigeria, I can say from different sectors of our economy, workers work day and night. We toil to create the wealth of this country in different sectors. And therefore, when we create the wealth, we must be recognized and appreciated. And in industrial relation, the issue of respect for collective bargaining, respect for due process, respect for the rule of law is essence, is important for us to have industrial peace and harmony. We have come under a situation where many collective bargaining agreements are not respected. And therefore, we don't also expect to have peace in our industrial relations system if those agreements are not respected. When agreements are due to be reviewed, they ought to be reviewed. Everywhere around the world, those are the principles that guide industrial relations. And thank God Nigeria have ratified the 8 core conventions of ILO that deals with freedom of association, that deals with the right to collective bargain, that deal with the right to minimum wage. All those 8 conventions have been ratified under a democratic government in 1960. In fact, 17 days after our independence, our leaders domesticated this convention to actually respect the dignity of labor. But today, those conventions, those laws are being undermined with impunity, especially by employers from the public sector. Those are some of the issues that we need to take on board. And therefore, I can say it's not yet uhuru for all of us, the working class. Today, one of the challenges affecting all of us is the issue of payment of the workers' benefit. Be it your pension benefit when you are retiring from service, be it your severance package, if you fall under the category of those that will be eased out in the course of work in the private sector arising for redundancy, or be it the monthly salary pay. I have realized of recent that workers are at pain because of the fact that their labor is not recognized any longer. And there is no way a country like Nigeria can develop. When politicians pay salary, they feel it's a waste because they prefer bogus contracts. In contrast, you are sure that one is either they are the contractors or the contractors are only fronts to front for them. Or at worst, they are sure of the 10% that will follow. And therefore, for them, payment of workers' entitlement should actually be relegated. This is why we must say no. Workers provide key services. And workers are not only found in Nigeria, they are found all over the world. We exchange our labor for what we'll use also to take care of our families. We also need a decent living for our families. And this must be clearly understood. And that is why in many of our employers today, particularly those in the public sector, gratuity alone and pensions is in trillions in liability. All of us could remember that we are at the same point some years back when the issue of contributory pension scheme came about, because the liability was done in trillions of naira. And the option that was put on the table is, how do we address the issue of liability of pension? And that's how the issue of contributory pension was accepted. We now went for the Chilean model. The Chilean model is contributory, where a worker will contribute and also the employer will contribute. But today, the law has been reviewed, where government ought to contribute 18%, but they are still contributing 15%. So we have a deficit. So then where is the justice? And where is the fairness? And how do we expect a country to prosper if such issues are not addressed? Those are the issues that we need to interrogate. And that is why the unions are there. Comrades, the challenge may not be easy, because from one crop of politicians to the other, we will always say that the politicians of yesterday may be better than the politicians of today. They keep telling us about new liberal policies that they want to impose on us. And let me give you one example. Of recent also, the same governors forum, who I can say are the problem of Nigeria today, came with a recommendation that the pump price of petroleum, and that was the El-Rufai also committee, should be increased from the current 163 or 162 to either 380 or 408. Can any right-thinking Nigerian, in this very difficult economic situation, when in other part of the world, palliative is being extended even to workers? We have seen the stimulus package approved by many countries, including workers, because workers are also a class of the working poor. We are working, but what we are earning cannot meet up our daily needs. How can somebody think in that direction? I saw some of the argument. They say it's because in the neighboring countries, petroleum is selling higher than in Nigeria. And it's a simple logic. Our currency, when you compare with our neighboring countries, have been devaluated with more than 150%. Let me give you a clear example. I used to travel to here, Benin Republic. In 2015, 1 million sefa was equivalent to 350,000 naira. True or false? Today, 1 million naira is equivalent to 1 million sefa. What is the falling value of our currency? Is 150%. How can products here not be cheaper there than here? In many countries that I visited, including Kenya, you will see that inflation rate is either 4 or 5%. But in our own case, you can judge by yourself. The exchange rate to the dollar today is going for close to 500 naira, $1. How can things then be cheaper? How can we compare such things? Is it us to be blamed citizens for the misfortune in our economy, or people should be able to take responsibility, including government? So you can see that the victims are now being blamed, and we are made to take responsibility. Where can we have money to buy 1 liter of petroleum product, which is so important, where you don't have light, when everybody depends on, including past my neighbor generator, and you say we should buy at this rate? Nigerians must be ready to interrogate some of those issues, because it will be a process that is unending. It's an unending process. The devaluation of our currency is a new liberal policy which benefits the West. We have been reduced to merely a trade post where they will buy our commodity and then go and furnish it and bring it back to us. And because our currency has been so devaluated, we buy at a higher cost. So Nigeria has been reduced to a mere trade post. And that is not how to build our economy. Our economy must be seen from the prism of building our industries, adding value to all agri-commodity, adding value to our raw material, refining petroleum products, and we sell to our people at a cheaper rate. Among all the countries of OPEC, Nigeria is the only country still importing refined products. It's a policy imposed on us. And therefore we must say no to neoliberal policies. And that is why we are continuously being impoverished. What is 30,000 today? The first minimum wage in 1981 is $125. When $1 in value was less than 1 naira. In fact, $1 was 75 kobo. What is the value today of 30,000 naira? This is the predicament that our rulers and our political elites must continue to understand. We must understand the issue. They have said privatize education. We have privatized the power sector, and we are going in the wrong direction. It's almost 5 years due for us to review the privatization process. Nobody is interested. The law preceding the privatization said after 5 years, we should sit down to review the privatization process, whether it has made benefit or it has impoverished Nigerians. We have seen it's also a conduit pipe to continue to exploit Nigerians. You are giving bills that of what you have not consumed. You are paying for darkness, and yet people say we should continue to pay bills. How do we continue to pay bills? We can't continue in this direction. Even in the best economies, privatization has failed of power, and they review it and got their strategy right. In Canada, we copied this thing from India. What we are going through is the same thing Delhi is going through. Bills that cannot be substantiated. There is no power, yet you pay. And people say we should continue to pay. How can you push this bitter pill to the throat of Nigerians? It will push many people out of prosperity into poverty. And by the time you push many people into poverty and out of jobs, because many people today are out of jobs, then insecurity will follow, because water will always find its level. When the children of the poor, who are mostly affected, they will be thrown out of school because their parents cannot afford to pay higher fee for education. They will then find their level in society. And I've won on this issue in 2016, the first time we were in Kaduna, when he sacked 21,000 teachers under the pretense of competency. It was no longer competency. What he did was also a neoliberal policy. He has looked at teachers that have served for 20, 30 years and look at the fact that they were earning higher, and he sacked all of them and employed all teachers on level 9. Those teachers that were employed are still temporary workers. They have not been confirmed 2 years down the line. And by that, he reduced the wage bill. That was the only policy that was used. Because empirically, what had been the value of what had been done? And in fact, to make it worse, this can be confirmed. None of those teachers have been paid their terminal benefit. Some have worked for 10 years. Some have worked for 15 years. Somebody called me yesterday, he has worked for 32 years. He was given a mere letter of disengagement to say your benefit will be paid later. They were never paid. Their children were thrown out of school. And no doubt, insecurity will follow, because that is the issue. While we were there recently, he's engaged in the same exercise again, to say that he's doing right sizing. Everybody has had it. Right sizing, because he said the allocation from federal allocation, 80 to 90% is used in paying worker salary. I would say that is false. The internal general revenue alone of Kaduna generated by workers is 50.7 billion in 2020, which is more than the receipt. We also know what has come in. We know what he has budgeted to pay salary. And we said, no, that is not the issue. When you put these two facts together, in fact, you are the best state in the northern part of this country with resources. You are not also the state that have the highest number of workforce, because today he has only 31,000 workforce. Katsina have higher, his neighbor had higher, Kano have higher, but yet they pay better and they have not disengaged any worker. So those workers were engaged again under the new policy of right sizing. Right sizing under the labor law falls within redundancy. What is redundancy? The permanent loss of job by a worker. That's what redundancy is defined in our labor law, section 20. And for any employer, be it government or private sector, to carry out redundancy, there are 3 conditions under section 20 of the labor law. 1, that the union must be informed. In fact, the law said the union shall be informed of the reason and scope of redundancy. That's the first condition. And 2, that the redundancy benefit will be negotiated, so that when you are exiting, as they are giving you a letter with the left hand, they should give you your benefit, including severance package that will be negotiated on your behalf. And thirdly, is the policy of the last to come into service will be the first to go out. Those are the 3 provisions. Those laws we have violated with impunity. No governor in Nigeria have violated this provision with impunity, and Labour have not challenged him. And that is why we are there for 3 days to challenge this impunity. We sent to him letters of disengagement of those workers. And you hear the story have changed to say, I'm employing workers. If you are employing workers, we don't have problem. But pay the ones you want to disengage. Respect the provisions of the law. Those are the issues that we are engaging with. In the same breath, after sacking this number of workers recently, he also increased the school fees of the Kaduna State University by 500%. Working class solidarity, long live Kosokon, long live Nigeria Labour Congress.
I'm Gbemiga Olamikon reporting for GTV Africa.